Hi everyone. So this is my lovely shawl that everyone's been admiring lately. It was the beautiful Moonlight Bumbo from Hobie, and it's just lovely, and it's just a basic pattern. All I do is UK trebles, which is US double crochet, and some chain spaces. And so here I have done chain 2, miss 2, and then another chain, but I might show you a pattern where I do just missing one chain and then missing one, and I put the rows of treble anywhere I like. Sometimes I do 2 rows and then a row of chain spaces. This one I've done 6 rows and then a row of chain spaces. It's a very simple pattern that looks different, and you can just change it up very easily, and with any colour yarn. It's just beautiful, and it's just my favourite way of doing a shawl, and it looks pretty because of the colour yarn you're doing. It doesn't have to be fancy. So I've got a couple of stitch markers here, and I've got a hook just to go with whatever size yarn you're using. You can do anything yourself. And so I've already got a tutorial for this that I did about 5 or 6 years ago when I first started my channel, and some people have asked me to update, and so it's been a while since I've done a long tutorial for a shawl, so we'll give it a go. So my slip knots are done like this, very, very easily. Go around my finger twice. I get the back one and pull it forward. I get the new back one and pull it right over. I'll show you again. It's very simple. Go around your finger twice. I just hold on to it. Pick up the back one and bring it forward. I put my thumb on it to sort of hold it. Pick up the new back one and bring it right over. And there you go. It took me ages to learn that, and it's just the easiest way for me to do it, and easy to remember. And if you're a beginner, how you hold your yarn and how you hold your hook is totally up to you. Don't worry that you're different to somebody else. Whatever is comfortable for you is okay. This channel is all about do what pleases you, have a go, and don't try and compete with others you think are better than you, because we all learn somewhere, and I still call myself a beginner crocheter and a beginner knitter even after 6 years of crocheting, or about 5.5 years of crocheting, and I've only been knitting since last year, so maybe just over a year, and I only do plain knitting. So we're going to do 4 chains, and to do a chain you just go around and you pull it through. Go around and you pull it through, and around, pull it through, and we do that 4 times. And then I go around and I go back into that first chain space. Now sometimes I can pick up 2 loops and sometimes I can pick up 1. It doesn't matter if you only pick up 1 at the beginning, but later on you must pick up both loops. So I'm going to yarn over and just pull it through that loop, whether it's 1 or 2, it doesn't matter. And then yarn over, I'm going to pull it through 2, yarn over, pull it through 2. And so you've now got something that looks like 2 trebles for UK, 2 doubles for US. So I'll probably just stick to saying trebles, but know that I'm just talking about US doubles as well. So it looks like you've got 2 there. So I'm going to put a stitch marker in the top of that treble, just so I know where my last stitch is. Otherwise, if I go into that last one there, I haven't got the right stitch count. So I'm just going to go into the top of that treble, and I'm going to do one more treble, so it looks like we've got 3 trebles, and the stitch markers in the top of the chains. Then I'm going to chain 2, 1, 2, then yarn over, and I'm going to go back into that circle again, 3 trebles to match up with that side, or 3 double crochets. I'll try and remember to say both. Oh, that's going to annoy me. Look, there's a bit of black yarn from somewhere. So that's 1, 2, 3. Very simple, very easy. That is now the start of your shawl, and you can later on pull this closed. Mine never closes properly, so sometimes I sew it closed with this, but if you end up with it open, it just matches up with these middle holes that go up your shawl. So this will be the middle of your shawl. So then we're just going to chain 1 as a turning chain. That chain means nothing. And turn your work over. So it's now up here, and you're going to work into these loops along the top. So doing yarn over, and you do a UK treble or a US double into that very first space. I hope you can see. I'm not sure what you can see because I can't really see the camera. So in the top of that first one, you go in and you do 2 trebles, and that will be increasing on that side. So there's 1, 2, and I'm going to put a stitch marker into the top of that first one. So remember where the end of my row is. You don't have to do that, but I find it helps me, especially when I'm using that ultra thin yarn, that beautiful coloured shawl I just showed you. It's quite hard to see the stitches, but I use this thicker yarn for the tutorial so that you can see. So then you do a treble or a double crochet in the stitches that go along at the top. So you pick up both loops. You always make sure you pick up both now. One in that one, and one in that one. And then you're up to this space here. I call them the holes. And we're going to do 2 trebles, yarn over, go into that space, oops, and then we're going to do 2 chain, and then we're going to do 2 more treble into that same space, and that's how you'll get your spaces all the way up your shawls. The chain 2 will make the space. Then we'll work our way down this other side, and as you go along, sometimes you've got to just pull that across and make sure you're not one of the trebles, you're not hiding one of the stitches right up underneath, but with this thicker yarn it doesn't seem to. With a thinner yarn sometimes you can. So yarn over and go into the top of that treble, always pick up your 2 loops, and into the next one, and then we're back where we started here. So I'll take that out, and you go into that stitch there. And I don't know why at the beginning of this I always find it very hard to go into that stitch. And I've only picked up one. There it is. And we always do 2 at the beginning and 2 at the end into that same space. So there you go. There's the start of what your shawl looks like, and there you'll have your spaces going up. So we'll do another row. Chain 1 and turn your work so your point of your shawl's up, and you work up the side. And it's basically always the same until you do your chain spaces, and you don't even have to do those, you can have it solid like this. But we're going to go into the top of that stitch there, and we're going to do 2. You always do 2 at the beginning, and I'm going to put my stitch marker in. Just remember where I was, and then we're going to work our way up the side putting 1 treble or US double into each set of loops at the top. Now once again we've come up to the space going up the shawl, so yarn over and we put in 2 trebles there, and that will also do the increases. Then chain 2, which will make the new space, and then in that same space you make 2 trebles. It's funny because I say single crochet for US single crochet, but I say trebles for UK trebles. So I use both terminology when it suits. And now we just work down the side, and when you get to the end here where the stitch marker is, you always put in 2. So you're increasing. And that is just the basic shawl. Now I do have a tutorial for a granny square shawl, a granny stitch triangle shawl back under my tutorials or in my crochet playlist, and that's really lovely and easy to do as well. Now we're back here at the end. Let's see if I can sneak in there with the stitch marker still there. So I put 2 in that one because it's the end. So this is the beginning of your shawl, and always count, just keep an eye that you've got the same number of stitches one side as to the other. And that's all it is. It's pretty simple and it looks lovely. So just remember to do 2 in this end, 2 and then 2 chains and then 2 and then 2 on this end. And it just keeps on going. So now I'm just going to show you how to do the chain spaces, and you can change it up as well. So you do your chain 1 and turn. So I'll put you always do your 2 on the end, otherwise you won't be increasing. So put our 2 here, And then what I'm going to do is I'm going to chain one, and I'm going to miss one and go into the next one. But on that other shawl I just showed you, I actually chained two, I missed two and went into the third one. But this time I'm just going to do a smaller gap because it's bigger yarn. So then you can chain one, yarn over, miss one and chain one. And that's how you get your chain spaces. So chain one, miss one. So if you're chaining one, you miss one. If you're chaining two, you miss two. And that way you keep your count the same. So chain one, whoops, miss one, and go up into the end. So when you're coming back down, where you've missed one, you put a chain right, a stitch right into there. If you've missed two, you'd put two stitches right into the hole, and that would get your count back up to being exactly the same. So now I'm back up to the gap here, so I'm going to yarn over and put in two. Let's pull up a bit more yarn. Two, and then two chain, because this is the peak or the top of your shawl. Well, actually, when you're wearing it, it'll be at the bottom, won't it? Because you'll be turning it around. And so we'll go back down the other side, and I'll just make sure there's no stitches under there. Now, to make it look exactly the same, instead of just chaining and going back into the spaces straight away, remember my last stitch was here. So I've got two there, but I've got one here. So I want to keep it exactly the same. So I'm going to put one in that very first stitch. Try and keep it the same. You don't have to worry. Sometimes people won't even notice. And then I did the space. So chain one, miss one, chain one. Miss one, treble one, and chain one, miss one, go into that next one, chain one, miss one, go into the next one, chain one, miss one, and it's going into the next one, but it's actually the end one, so I'm going to put two in here, and I can't squeeze in, so I'm going to have to take that out. Make sure I'm getting both loops. That's one and two. So that's what it looks like. So again, I made sure that when I was coming down this other side, I just matched up here. So I had three together that side because there was two in the top and one there. So I did three there and it matched all the way down. But if you make a mistake and you forget and you chain, sometimes when you're wearing things, people don't notice. So don't panic about your work and worrying about being a perfectionist. You just keep practicing and you'll get slowly better. So chain one when you turn, and then we'll put two because it's the end. Yarn over. Now There's a stitch there, so we'll go into that one. Yarn over. Now at the chain space, so just go right into that chain space and make your stitch in there. So because I missed one, I just make one, but if I'd missed two, I'd put two in there, and if I'd missed three and moved right along, I'd put three in there. I hope that makes sense. That's how you get your count number back. So yarn over, and then I've got that stitch to work in at the top there. Yarn over, and then I go into my chain space and make a stitch. And then I go into the top of that stitch there. Yarn over, I go into the space. Go into the top of that stitch. Go into the space. And then I've got the stitches all together here, so I'll go into each of these stitches. This is where it ended up being 3. So I'll just work into those 3. And then you're in your middle space here that goes up your shawl. So I'll put my 2. Put up a bit more yarn. Running out. And then you'll do your 2 chain. And then you'll put your 2 in that same space. And then I'll work my way back down the other side. So there's 3 together, so I'll work in the top of those 3 stitches, 1 in each. And then I'll work